I have next to me Miss Ilana Erasmus, who is currently the sales manager at Green Enterprise Pty Ltd, a company that particularly deals with ICT and is one of the leading ICT companies within Namibia. And then I have Miss Ronelle Lagrange. The French in me just came out. And she is the head of electronic communications at the Communications Regulatory Authority of Namibia. Without further ado, let's get into the topic. Ms. Ronelle, would you please explain to us what 5G is and how it differs from the previous generations of cellular networks?
Okay, that I can easily do. How many of you have mobile phones? Okay. Now you will remember some years ago, the phones was about this size, and that was for 2G. And we could only do voice, and we could send an SMS, nothing else. Then came 3G. With 3G, we could start accessing the internet, but it was very slow. Very slow. Then comes 4G, and the internet and the data you use became faster. You all joined social media. You are sending text messages. You could do video calling. Now 5G is the next generation. So it is still faster in data speed, but with it, it has now converged with IT. And that is why I have my colleague here next to me. Because previously, as much as you could access the internet and you could stream, now you can do it interactively, which means, for example, you want to see what Swakopmund looks like. 5G will be able to take you on a virtual tour of Swakopmund. It also therefore enhances the experience we can give, for example, to children in schools. Not all children are able to come to Windhoek to see what Windhoek looks like. But by creating that experience online, the child will feel as if he's in Windhoek, because he can actually feel he's walking down the street, Independence Avenue. You can show him the municipal buildings, you can show them the High Court, you can show them what it looks like, and you can take them anywhere in the world with virtual reality applications that are making use of your 5G technology. Not all of us is able to visit a doctor when we are sick. But with 5G, we can have the consultation with your doctor online. You can also get, for example, a message to remind you to take your TB medicine. We call it telemedicine. We can send a drone to deliver your medicine to you by using the telecommunications networks. So it improves, or it provides us with an immense opportunity to improve health and education. And because we are living in such a dry country, it can also help with agriculture, because we can now measure, we call it Internet of Things. We can now measure the moisture in the ground and only water the plants when they need water, so that we do not overwater them. We can monitor climate change, so that we can predict when we will have drought much better. Or we can do emergency communications in case we have got flooding, so that we can get the messages much quicker to the population via mobile phone, via the broadcaster, via the internet, and make sure that we keep our people safe, but also to make them more productive, so that we can use those resources that we have much better and create more and build socio-economic development, and make sure that everyone, also people that maybe not be able to read easily, but can use an application to hear what the person is saying instead of having to read it, and be part of the digital economy going forward.
That was really beautiful. You mentioned the key features and benefits of 5G, and I would like to get into how they can be leveraged for socio-economic development within Namibia. Ms. Ilana, would you kindly elaborate on that?
In terms of the leveraging, and I can only add that yes, everything 5G in terms of connectivity and having access to information and the type of information will allow improvements, especially within education and in the healthcare sector. That's kind of where I also see it as having the biggest impact. So that we can have access to a specialist all the way from Inhana, not having to travel all the way to Windhoek or even to South Africa for specialist care. You can consult via your mobile phone or a computer center or a healthcare center that is available in your community, and the specialist will be able to consult with you, be able to instruct the nurse who's maybe assisting you on certain information, and even a video, taking a video, having a look at it, having a live consultation. And what I mean by that is video recording, or it's like watching a movie, and being able to then make a better diagnosis, and with that a prognosis and in the medical help that you would need. So I see it in that sense, and then as Brunel pointed out, in education, when the world's your oyster, from experiencing a virtual reality to having access to visiting a city virtually, online libraries, online storytelling, starting your own broadcasting corporation almost on your own, because you would have access to better connectivity. So it really would be a positive impact on us as a citizen, as well as have a positive impact on the socio-economic.
The digital infrastructure in Namibia is quite lacking. We have noted that even with 4G, that the coverage is even very low. I believe that it's 39% of the country, and 5G even lower. And with even in other spheres, that our digital infrastructure in technology in general is lacking. How can we then, what steps can we take to actually realize the potential of 5G in Namibia?
Okay, first and foremost, from CRAN as regulator, because we set out the rules of the game for the ICT sector, we have embarked on specific initiatives as per our latest strategic plan that was launched most recently. First of all, to look also not only at the provisioning of the service, but also to ensure digital literacy. That we know how and what we can do online and what you should not do online. And also to move away, some people have a fear of using the mobile phone to interact other than voice. For example, you will not trust it to make a banking transaction. So that we can teach the people how to use those applications and to build trust in what you're using. Furthermore than that, because we control the frequencies that is to be used for these networks, we you will note that when CRAN published, these frequencies is available. We set out the targets we would like you to meet. So in the last round, what we have done is we said this is the 14 regions, this is the target in the broadband policy, 80% of the population must have access to broadband services. And we said it must not be broadband services with a data speed of less than 20 megabits per second. And then we said, okay, Commerce, you meeting the target, Kunini, you not. So if you want these frequencies, we want to see the rollout plan of the operator to ensure they're going to meet the target. Otherwise, we will simply not give them the frequencies. The moment I submit that business case and they say, yes, this is what they will roll out, we say, fine, this is what you presented to us, it will become a license condition. And we will monitor you every 3 months as you have progressed in rolling out the service. And we're only focusing now on 4G and 5G. We're no longer giving frequencies for 2G and 3G. Because we have to up the broadband speed. And we started with the bands that is earmarked for rural coverage. Your 700 and your 800. Because the lower we go in frequency, the wider area I can cover.
Yeah.
In terms of the geographical layout. And I have now submitted. We are busy evaluating. And we also asked that over and above the promise of broadband, what do you intend to do for education, agriculture and health? You must provide, as we call it, a use case. What are we going to use it for? Present it to us. Otherwise, we will not grant the license.
You mentioned now, those are the policy frameworks
Yes.
that are in place with regards to the deployment of 5G in Namibia.
Yes.
With 5G is a technological entity in itself.
Yes.
What are the infrastructural and capacity requirements for its deployment in Namibia? What infrastructural, technological infrastructure do we need and devices do we need for its deployment in Namibia? And what strides have been taken so far for its implementation in Namibia?
So in terms of the infrastructure, the investment is quite high because what we call it's millimeter wave. So it covers shorter distances, but you can push more data through or data packets. You can share information a lot quicker. So you would need more devices to cover a wider area. So in that sense, the investment would be quite high for the operator to be able to cover and meet those requirements set out by CRAN. But between the private sector and government, we can take hands to see how we can bridge that investment that needs to take place. And again, rightly so, what is the technology going to be used for? And the 3 areas that it would have the best and most impact on would be the healthcare sector, the education sector, and agriculture. In terms of our devices, currently having 5G ready devices for everybody to be able to access the technology. So it's what I would say it's the same as when internet and a mobile operator first hit Namibia, and we all had those big devices. Not everybody could afford it, and not everybody. So we had less devices being able to connect. But with 5G, we would be able to connect a lot more devices than what 4G allows us right now, or 3G or 2G for that matter. I hope I'm veering a little bit off the question that you asked me, but from an investment point of view, it's going to be, it is already, it's going to be a big investment that needs to be made.
Now, considering that this will be quite pricey, not only on the investors, as like the private sector, but also government. And if the cost price is quite high, that means the end user would also have to pay a hefty fee for. Does that mean that the end user would have to pay a hefty fee? as well?
Not necessarily, because we will have to look at the economy of scale. Initially, the cost would be high, but as more users join, then we can bring the cost down.
Yes.
It's about volume at the end of the day, because your cost is not going to become the technology investment would be a once-off to cover the area that you would like the 5G or where you need the 5G technology. So once that investment is made and users start are enabled to make use of the service, and the cost will come down eventually. But we need to come together from the private sector and the government sector to come up with ways on how we can initially fund that gap and then make it more affordable for all citizens.
Yes. Ms. Ronell, now noting that the bigger the amount of users there are, it will reduce the actual cost of the accessibility for 5G. And having noted that there's actually a huge digital divide, meaning that already there are not enough users for 4G now. The coverage is not as big. What are the efforts made by CRAN to ensure that 5G networks are more accessible to all customers and more affordable to Namibians, even those in marginalized communities?
Okay. We must remember that 5G is not only the millimeter waves. It also operates in the low bands and the mid bands. Also, in addition to that, you always have 4G as a fallback to 5G. And it's not only humans that will be using 5G, because a large portion is machine-to-machine communication, which is now also coming in with machine-to-machine communication, and not only humans. So your users are a lot more. We are keeping a very close eye on the data price that the consumer pays, and we approve those tariffs, yes or no, and we are forcing them down to being cost-based, so that we can have affordable. In addition, CRAN has also availed more Wi-Fi spectrum. We recently announced, as on the 3rd of April, that the lowest 6 gigahertz band is now open for Wi-Fi, which means we will bring in the latest Wi-Fi technologies as well, which can also handle more users so that the data can be offloaded. So your ecosystem will comprise of your users, of your devices, of the network, of security measures to keep everybody safe online, of course, and then also in terms of what the use cases. And 5G is a very unique technology because it is user-centric. It's not operator-centric, which means your use case is tailored to the needs of the customer. So, for example, if you do agricultural applications, as I explained, to measure, that is done by sensors. Now, sensors use very small amounts of data, minute, small amounts of data, so it's very cheap. But the benefit that the consumer has is that it can increase food production, while the machine is actually using the network, not so much the user or the human user as we know it. So the ecosystem have to coexist with each other. So you will not see 5G as covering 100% geographical. It will be installed where it is needed, and the rest should be 4G, which we already have. And that brings the cost again down. For example, the port harbour at Walvis Bay has a good business case for 5G for the operation of the cranes and the offloading and stock control of what is offloaded and uploaded onto the ships. But I don't need that same use case in Arandas, because Arandas is closer to the mine and it's a residential community. So it depends on what is the need. Do you require that very higher throughput, or is 4G enough? Or, in case somebody wants them to stream a video, is the network resource there that you can use 5G for that moment, but not all the time.
Yes.
And that is the combination and what has to be married together in that to create an ecosystem that benefits for all. And that is, if you look at the 5G strategy that have published on the 4th of January, and it has a very unique government gazette. The government gazette is 8,000. It's just the 5G strategy. It has got different pillars. We've got security, we've got network rollout, we have digital skills, education, research and development, because we need to know what we can use this technology for. And we've got health and the environment, because you also want to protect the environment and you also want to ensure you protect public health. And that is why there is standards and the equipment have to be type approved. We do not want substandard equipment into Namibia. It will be stopped at the borders because we will not grant the certifications to get into the country. And you have to build that whole ecosystem. The IT companies like Green has an important role to play because they have to look at security, they have to look at applications, they have to be sure that your IT equipment can also work together with the telecommunications equipment to create that ecosystem. Yeah. Because you're now marrying the two.
Noting that this would take efforts
yes.
from both government and private sectors. I'd like to ask Ms. Erasmus, what steps is Green Enterprise taking to prepare for the rollout of 5G networks in Namibia, and what are some of the key technical and operational challenges you anticipate?
What Green is taking, what steps we are taking is in preparing, is to make sure that our the technology infrastructure, the machines that will be communicating with the technology can firstly do it. So we will be upgrading the existing infrastructures to meet that requirement. Obviously, acquire the correct and spectrum license from CRAN to be able to operate that infrastructure correctly, and obviously a big or a very important aspect is also to ensure that it is secure. By understanding the technology and what is it going to be applied for. The other thing, just interesting, that Runal brought it up is the machines talking to one another. So in the agriculture and even in the healthcare sector, they are, for example, the projector, that machine that's sitting on that desk, it communicates because it has to send a picture and it connects to the Wi-Fi if you want to connect wirelessly to the projector. Now, from an IT perspective, what we do is we pull the information or get this information from that projector that tells us this lens or this bulb that's in it that projects the light or the information onto a screen has only so many hours that it can live before you have to replace it, just like a normal bulb. But with a sensor in it, it alerts us. We can tell us, please tell us when you are close to your replacement date. The same with healthcare equipment. Your television, any device that you can think of, that information we can extract, or we can have it asked to send us information, and then we can prepare better. It will change the way we have access to healthcare, access to education, and have access to agricultural sector. Because information today is very important. It tells us a story, and it prepares us for the future. Better planning, making use better of resources, and it can only be beneficial. So I just wanted to add that to what Renal was saying. So that's for the young minds here. machine learning and the Internet of Things is our future.
Interestingly, 5G is not, seems to be really functioning on its own. And I'd like to ask that, what are the key operational challenges in technical challenges that you may anticipate that is now with relating to data protection, security, and the risks that are posed with the rollout of 5G?
From our perspective, it is key that the legislation in terms of data protection is finalized. Because together with access to information, it has to create a balance between the two. The one is your right to access, the one is your right to protect my information. So you must have both available to make sure that you have a balance between the two. With cybersecurity, when that one comes through, and CRAN is tasked with that role, it will be our role to protect critical infrastructure from disruptions. You do not want to see a failure of your power grid because somebody accessed it which was not supposed to. You do not want to see the ICT networks come down because somebody hacked into an ICT network. And the duty of the cybersecurity, when it became act, is to protect the critical infrastructure of Namibia. And that is your finance sector, because if we can't do finance or transact or buy and sell things, our economy suffers. It also disrupts your social life. If you cannot buy your takeaway, you are irritated when you want it. And then of course, also your water and sanitation is very important, your transport, your energy sector, as well as then your ICT sector itself. Because if I take away the telecommunications networks, no other sector can function. So the aim of cybersecurity is to protect your critical infrastructure, to prevent disruption of your economy, your social life, and of course public safety. Because if all the traffic lights in Windhoek stops, then we know what will happen to the traffic in Windhoek. It will be accidents, everything will happen that is not supposed to happen. So you want to protect that. And you have to have the free to balance it. And we already have an Electronic Transactions Act, which protects you in terms of your online transactions. And that part is enabled. That if something is put up, a takedown notice can be given. If you advertise something, you have to honor delivery. So that part is already there, but we need all four to create a safe and secure online environment. And once we have the legislation, then your regulations comes into place. But it's difficult to make a regulation without a law that says you can do it, because I cannot enforce it. So that is the first step. And then, of course, it's your network rollout. But I can promise you the ICT sector is very eagerly awaiting to roll out. I know what we get in terms of mobile phones that is 5G capable from various manufacturers, that they want to be type-approved, equipment that is coming in. They are gearing up. And they are gearing up rapidly to be able to harness it. We have seen data centers being built. We've seen the second undersea cable being connected to Namibia to create that interconnection between us and the other country.
Well noted. You mentioned four pillars critical to 5G, that is in four spheres. There's social, the critical infrastructure, data, and our economy.
Yes.
So earlier we spoke about, we now speaking about the economic sense of 5G. Within our social interactions, what are some of the benefits we can expect with 5G? I mean, other than 5G, throw fast, we'll be watching YouTube at the speed of light.
No.
There really are so many things. So Internet of Things we will finally be able to experience. Where first world countries are already experiencing it. In 2019, I went to visit the Lenovo headquarters in Beijing, China. And a perfect example there of what 5G could mean is you can set your car to start at a certain time in the morning to start warming up the engine. You can have your fridge tell you that you need milk and butter and eggs. Other examples would be to remind you to buy electricity if your units are low. There's many things it will enable you to in terms of the technology use because of how many devices you can connect to it. So in terms of information, again at your fingertips, that allows us then to be able to provide services again to companies who specialized skills to help plan them better, to replacing infrastructure, replacing old technology, building that application platform within as an IT company, or it's a new career path that can open up so new jobs will be created, or new job titles, for example. So you won't have a mechanic, for example, anymore. You will have now say for example, a vehicle systems engineer, that because the vehicle will tell you, listen, replace my oil, or this part in my car is broken, you need to fix it. Something that's what will be happening.
Can we anticipate job losses in certain markets that could be deemed obsolete? And
yes and no. That's why we need to start so part of the whole, not just the infrastructure upgrade and roll out to ready ourselves for 5G. We also have to take hands with our educational sector to gear up for these changes. I'm sure you all have heard of ChatGPT, which is an artificial intelligence search engine. It's a little bit, it's a lot more intelligent than the normal Google search that you would do that you currently been doing. So you could, there would be some job losses, but it's not going to happen as fast as you would anticipate, because first we need to have more programmers, more engineers in our sectors to build solutions for the technology that's going to come our way. I would say more accountants and lawyers, that type of thing, in the legal field. Maybe that would touch them to a certain degree, but I think the opportunity for job creation in the technology sector will be great. There will be a lot of opportunities, because we will need programmers and we will need application builders to embrace the technology properly.